Mill leaves me out of family gathering, so I choose independence. Hey y'all, I'm Sam, just a regular guy, 35 years old, who got caught up in a mess I never saw coming. 3 years ago, I married the most stunning woman I'd ever laid eyes on, Jenny. She was sweet as pie, always making me feel like the luckiest fella around. But there's a twist here that'll knock your socks off. My mother-in-law, Mary, is like a bad dream come to life. From day one, she's been gunning for me, and it's been one hell of a ride. I get it, who wouldn't want to protect their baby girl? But Mary takes it to a whole new level. She's the queen of sneaky, manipulative moves, all while making me look like the bad guy. It's like she's got a whole playbook on how to mess with my head. We've all met someone like that, right? Well, buckle up, 'cause I deal with this on the regular. She's my mother-in-law. Now here's the real kicker. I was raised to stand up for myself. I'm not one to back down from nonsense, and Jenny fell for my no-bullshit attitude, probably 'cause she's the quiet, soft-spoken type. We're like oil and water, opposites that just somehow work together. I've got a knack for seeing through people's crap, and let me tell you, Mary's bad intentions shine bright as day. Our strong personalities just keep clashing like two bulls in a pen. Now let me take you back to the first time I met her. Mary looked me dead in the eye and dropped a bomb. Sam, don't you think it's high time you cut back on all that eating? Can you believe that? We're sitting at this fancy restaurant and the tension is thicker than molasses. It's just me, Jenny, my girlfriend then, Mary, and her husband Tom. Tom looked like he wanted to crawl under the table, and Jenny was just mortified. It was one of those moments you wish the ground would swallow you up. But Jenny, bless her heart, was also pissed at her mom. She snapped, "Really, Mom? That's such a terrible thing to say. He can eat whatever he wants." "Oh, sweetie, I didn't mean any harm. Just looking out for you, you know. I've noticed Sam's putting on weight. You showed me pictures of him from before, and he looked so much better then. Not like now. But no offense, sweetheart. Just some advice." I tried to stay calm. Didn't want to cause a scene. It was my first time meeting the family, and I wanted to impress Jenny. So for once I bit my tongue, smiled politely, and thanked her for the advice. But that wasn't the end of it. Mary's jabs kept coming as we got to know each other. I thought she'd ease up once she saw I was good for her daughter, but nope, it only got worse. I was getting along fine with Tom, the nicest guy you'd ever meet. I could see where Jenny got her good heart from. As I got closer to everyone else in Jenny's family, Mary seemed to be the only one with a problem. Even Jenny's childhood friend Dave was treated like family. Tom and Mary saw him as a second son. Jenny was all in on our relationship, and her whole family, Dave included, welcomed me with open arms. Except for Mary, of course. She had her special issues with me. I'm grateful for the love and support from most of Jenny's family. They were there for me up until our wedding day when Mary naturally tried to ruin things. She was a real piece of work acting like a bridezilla. No, her hair should be in an updo like mine was. I appreciate the help, Mary, but I want my hair like this. I don't think so. You look so ugly. The bridal party gasped, but I was used to this crap. She quickly backpedaled. Oh, no, darling. I mean, you can look so much better. I see a lot of myself in Jenny. She's a bright young woman, and though I looked better at her age, she's beautiful in her way. Tom managed to get her to back off, but the bitterness stayed. I was losing my spark, and this woman was draining me. Something had to give. 3 years later, we were sitting around the old wooden table in Jenny's childhood home on a lazy Sunday evening. Mary, with her ever-so-fake smile, had extended the invitation, even including Dave. Felt like some kind of big event, but I had a feeling something was up. Turns out I was right. Mary stood up, all dramatic, clearing her throat for attention. Attention, everyone. My birthday's coming up, and I've got a special surprise. We're all going to Hawaii. The room erupted with excitement. Wow, that's amazing, Jenny, I said, looking at her with genuine enthusiasm. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. But Mary, with that icy tone, cut me off. Oh, actually, you're not coming, Sam. I blinked, trying to make sense of what she just said. What? What are you talking about? This wasn't part of the plan. I made some last-minute changes, she said, smirking. Canceled your ticket before they charged us extra. So my ticket was bought and then canceled? I said, feeling my blood boil. Why does this woman hate me so much? Mom, what are you talking about? Jenny asked, her face as cold as ever. Dave and I exchanged glances while everyone else started throwing questions at Mary. Finally, she sighed and said, Fine, I'll tell you why I thought it best that Sam sits this one out. I'm getting older, and I want to spend my remaining years with those I care most about. And then, with a look that could kill, she added, Unfortunately, Sam just doesn't belong on that list. My jaw dropped. Wow, Mary, really? What's your problem? She shot back, There's nothing wrong with me. Don't you dare disrespect me. I'm just stating a fact. I couldn't hold back. Well, by that logic, then Dave shouldn't go either, right? He's not technically family. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. But we all know that's ridiculous. He's family, and since Jenny and I got married, that means she's family too. Well, with Dave, it's different. He's precious to us. Jenny hasn't always been here, so I'm not comfortable with her coming. It's my birthday, so I get to decide. Come on, Jenny, we're leaving, I said, standing up. No, I said firmly, and the whole room went silent. Mary's smile faded. What did you say? You've made it clear you don't like me. For 3 years I've put up with your nonsense. You think we don't see how you act? You think we don't notice you're a narcissist? Little girl, watch your mouth. You're in my house, Mary hissed. Not for long. I'm just about to leave, I said, turning to Jenny. Babe, I love you, but your mom will never accept me. No matter what I do or say, she'll always have an issue. There was a heavy silence. Go on this trip. You can't miss it. Your mom's crazy, but she's still your mom, and you love her. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. I faced Mary. As for you, I'm in love with your daughter, and I'm not going anywhere. You might think you can push me away, but I'll always be here. When you go to Hawaii, you'll be thinking about me because you're obsessed with me. How dare you? I should slap you, she spat. I'm not finished. You're obsessed with tearing me down. All I've done is show you kindness and patience. Enough is enough. You don't want me in Hawaii? Fine. You don't think I'm family? Fine. But I'll always be here for Jenny, Tom, and even Dave, but never for you. Mary was stunned into silence. I said goodbye to the family, kissed Jenny on the cheek, and walked out. Let me drive you home. Can't let you take a cab, she said, softer now. Don't worry about me, babe. I love you, I replied, walking out with my head held high. Thank you so much for loving me, but I'll be fine. You have a trip to discuss. Okay, if you say you're fine, then I'll believe you. Oh, don't forget your purse. Right, my purse. I left it in the kitchen. Once I arrived at some point, though, Mary went into the kitchen, I think, to catch her breath after the whole situation. After being berated like that, I too would have done something similar. What do you want? Don't worry about me, sweetheart. I'm just here to collect my things. Well, make it quick. I want you out of my house. I can't believe you said those things to me. With that, she quickly stormed out. She was filled with so much anger that she didn't even want to see me out the door. At that moment, I scoffed at her ridiculousness and reached for my purse. When I noticed a piece of paper next to it, my eyes glanced over it and noticed that it was Mary's handwriting. I believed at the time that it must have been a piece of paper detailing the itinerary for the trip. Because I was feeling a bit relieved about not going, I couldn't resist the temptation to sneak a peek and see the wild time I'd be skipping. So I snatched the letter and started reading. Boom! Right there in the letter it said, Dearest Dave, you've always been like a son to me, and you know I love you dearly. Whoa. So it turns out this was a letter meant for Dave. A bit strange, but I guess it's thoughtful. For some reason, my curious eyes began to read further. The love and care you have shown for me throughout the years will never be forgotten. I hate to admit it, but even when it comes to my daughter Jenny, I feel as though the love we once shared is no longer there. Wait, what? Is she saying she loves Dave more than she loves Jenny? That simply couldn't be. I continued to read the paper, and with each new line I got more astonished at what I was reading. I simply couldn't believe it. There was a lot to unpack, and even though it wasn't my place to read that letter, I'm really glad that I did. Once I finished reading the whole letter, I couldn't sit still. I started pacing back and forth in the kitchen, my mind racing. And then, like a lightning bolt, it struck me. Everyone who absolutely needed to know about this letter was right there in that room. This was the moment to take action. I gave the letter another read just to double-check that I wasn't going crazy or imagining things, and just as I thought, yep, it was the same thing I read the first time. I walked into the dining room to meet only 3 pairs of eyes looking back at me. Sam, I am so sorry for what my wife has tried to put you through. Don't worry one bit. You will come with us to Hawaii as long as I'm around. She's just in a funk right now, but don't worry, I'll convince her to change her mind. I don't know what's gotten into her recently, but don't worry, I will change her mind. Tom, please don't worry about me. As I said, I'm fine. I'm more than fine because I have found some interesting news that I need to share with everyone, and I especially need to share it with Jenny. Jenny and Dave's ears perked up. I saw the flash of worry that ran across Jenny's face. Perhaps she thought that this was too much for me to handle, and that I wanted to ask for a divorce. Oftentimes, when I would complain about her mother to her, she'd agree with me and wonder how I managed to keep up with her nonsense for so long. I'd always tell her that it was because I loved her way too much to let her go and that I'd go to hell and back for her. I noticed that the Wicked Witch of the West wasn't around, so I asked, "Where is Mary? She needs to be here for this, too." "Oh, I mentioned earlier she appears to be in a bit of a funk after you shouted at her. She mentioned having a slight headache and decided to retreat upstairs for a nap to nurse it. We knew she wouldn't be back down for quite some time because she's really particular about her beauty sleep, and her routines tend to inconvenience others, which usually left me feeling annoyed. But this situation was different. It was absolutely crucial for her to be present." "It's okay, Sam. You can tell us, and we'll inform her when she wakes up." I hesitated, considering the information that I knew. I wanted to see the redness on her face from embarrassment. "I think you should just go ahead and tell us, sweetie. It's okay, and you know Jenny has anxiety. It would be bad to keep her waiting." That was true. Jenny's anxiety got really bad at times, and I could see her begin to fidget from the anticipation. "Okay, fine. I'll show you guys what I found. When I was in the kitchen collecting my purse and getting ready to leave, I found something interesting that I think you all need to know about." I pulled out the paper I found and began to read. It reads, "Dearest Dave, you know that you have always been like a son to me, and you know that I love you dearly. The love and care you have shown for me throughout the years will never be forgotten. I hate to admit it, but even when it comes to my daughter Jenny, I feel as though the love we once shared is no longer there." What is she saying? What is this?" I continued reading. "Jenny, I just don't see eye to eye like we used to, and honestly, I think it's because of Sam. Ever since she married that man, she no longer has time for me. She doesn't love me, and therefore, I don't think I love her. I love you, and you are my daughter. And on that note, I need to inform you that I've decided to revise my will to ensure that all my possessions go to you, and not Jenny. I'm aware it might hurt her, but frankly, I've reached a point where I couldn't care less. It's that dreadful Sam man who has tainted my affection for her. I hope you've received and understood this letter well. The reason why I didn't want to approach you about it in person is that, and it pains me to admit this, I couldn't risk seeing the rejection on your face. I know you love Jenny like she's your sister, and most likely you won't approve, but I don't care. I'm giving you everything. The money, the house, the cars, and even my small businesses. They're all yours, whether you like it or not. If you want to talk about this further, please call me and we can discuss it. I look forward to hearing your response. I will love you forever and always, your second mom." I finally looked up from reading the letter, and I was met with a flurry of mixed emotions. Tom looked like he was going to cry. Dave looked stunned, but Jenny Jenny looked like she was going to murder someone. "I can't believe she said all those things," Jenny spat, her eyes blazing with fury. "Is she serious right now? So the reason why she's doing all of this is because of you, Sam? She hates you so much that she'd cut me out of her will just to spite us both?" I could see Tom was about to break down, and Dave looked completely floored. "This has gone far enough," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've had it with Mary and her toxic behavior. What are we going to do?" At that moment, an idea struck me like a bolt of lightning. 1 week had passed since the blow-up, and it was time for the big Hawaii trip. Mary woke up that morning to find a note from Tom on her bedside table. It read, "Good morning, gorgeous. We decided to let you get some more beauty rest. Don't worry, your bags are all packed. Just find us at the airport." Mary, thinking everything was fine, got ready and headed to the airport, looking around frantically for us. She tried calling our phones, but no one answered. She assumed we must have already boarded the plane. In a state of panic, she hurried onto her own flight, hoping to catch up with us once she landed in Hawaii. The long 12-hour flight must have felt like an eternity. As soon as she disembarked, she video-called Tom. "Hey, Tom, where on earth are you guys? I overslept and just saw your note. I got to the airport and tried calling, but none of you were answering. I assumed you were already on the plane. But now we're in Hawaii. How amazing! Tell me where you are so we can meet up and let the festivities begin." Tom, with a calm voice, replied, "That won't be happening, Mary." "What do you mean? Tell me where you are." "I'm at home." "What?" "You heard me. I'm at home. We're all at home. Say hi, everyone." Tom panned his phone to show that everyone, himself, Dave, Jenny, and me, were all sitting around the same dining table where the drama unfolded a week earlier. "What do you mean? Why are you at home?" Mary gasped. "You see, Mary, Sam found some interesting information about you, and since then we decided we'd much rather stay in good old boring Florida with him than go anywhere with you." Mary gasped louder this time. "You think we wouldn't find out?" "Find out what, my dear?" Tom asked, his voice still calm but laced with steel. "Don't you, my dear me. You were really going to cut me out of the will, Mom. How did you even find out about that?" "Oh, that dreadful man you hate so much, Sam, found your stupid letter in the kitchen." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Mary, lying now is just adding more nails to your coffin. Dave, tell her she needs to believe us. We all read the letter." Mary's face turned as white as a ghost. "But I didn't do anything. Sam is making everything up." "Oh, am I?" I chimed in. "You are so pathetic it makes me sick. We all know what you said and what you tried to do. Thank God I was nosy enough to read the whole thing." "Jenny, Tom, please no," Mary pleaded, her voice now desperate. "Mary, enough is enough. You're done. You don't get to say anything else. You messed up big time. Your hatred has caused you to be blind. Now you have to suffer the consequences of being alone on your birthday because of what you've done. I hope you can use this time in Hawaii to reflect on your actions," Tom said, his voice full of finality. "But I'll be alone. It won't be fun," Mary wailed. "Maybe people would like to hang out with you more if you weren't such a raging witch. Have fun," I said with a satisfied smirk. And with that, Tom hung up the phone. We all let out a sigh of relief, and I was the first person to start laughing. Eventually Jenny joined in, and before we knew it we were all bursting out laughing, just cracking up at how crazy the whole situation was. The look on Mary's face once she realized the gig was up was priceless. Her face turned pale, all the blood drained from her cheeks, and I could tell that it was the first time in a long time that she felt truly embarrassed. Mary had to spend her vacation alone, calling Tom often to see if he at least would come join her because canceling the reservations would be expensive. But each time he denied her. He said that when she came back they were going to implement some ground rules if she still wanted to be married to him. Mary began to act all apologetic and frantic, a complete 180 from her usual self, which was honestly surprising. Jenny also mentioned that if Mary wanted to be part of her life, she had to drastically change her attitude. Otherwise, Jenny was ready to cut her off completely. Their relationship is still rocky, And Jenny said that if Mary ever disrespected her or me again, even if it's the smallest remark, she'd cut her off completely the same way Mary was planning on cutting her off. As for Dave, he decided to stop being so nice to Mary, as it was clearly enabling her toxic behavior. So not only did Mary end up spending a miserable time in a beautiful place, but she also risked losing the three most important people in her life. Now she has rocky relationships with all of us, and she has to change to be better. As for me, I messaged Mary and told her that I needed time to see if I could forgive her for all the injustices. She was apologizing and begging for me to talk some sense into the men in her life. I obviously refused, stating that this is the bed she made for herself, and now she has to lie in it. Even to this day, Mary is still trying to mend the very broken relationships that she caused. I just hope that she learned her lesson. A few weeks after the Hawaii incident, things started to get back to normal, or as normal as they could be. Jenny, though, seemed to get more irritable. Every little thing I did seemed to set her off. It was like walking on eggshells around her. She was snapping at me for the smallest things, and her patience had worn thin. I couldn't understand why she was being so damn bitchy all the time. It wasn't just me who noticed. Tom and Dave did too. One day I was sitting in the kitchen drinking my morning coffee when Jenny stormed in, slamming the door behind her. "What's got you in such a bad mood this early?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Don't start with me, Sam. You know damn well what's wrong," she snapped, glaring at me. "No, actually, I don't. You've been acting like a real piece of work lately, and I'm tired of it." "Oh, I'm the problem now, huh? Maybe if you weren't so clueless, you would understand." I sighed, feeling my patience wearing thin. "Look, Jenny, if there's something bothering you, just spit it out." She crossed her arms and huffed. "Fine, it's just everything. The house, the bills, my mom, and you always trying to play the victim." "Me, playing the victim? Are you serious right now? After all the crap your mom put me through?" "Don't bring her into this. This is about us," she said, her voice rising. "Exactly. Us. And I'm trying to make this work, but you're making it impossible with your attitude." "Maybe if you weren't so useless, I wouldn't be so frustrated all the time." Her words stung like a slap to the face. I stood up, staring at her. "You know what, Jenny? Maybe it's you who needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror." She threw her hands up in the air. "Fine, maybe I will. And maybe I'll realize I'm too good for this marriage." "Maybe you will," I shot back, my voice cold. We stood there, staring each other down, neither of us willing to back down. Finally, she turned and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me alone with my thoughts. This wasn't the woman I married. Jenny had changed, and not for the better. A few days later, I decided to talk to Tom about what was going on. We were sitting in his workshop, tinkering with an old motorcycle, when I brought it up. "Tom, can I ask you something?" "Sure, Sam. What's on your mind?" "It's Jenny. She's been acting real nasty lately, and I don't know what to do." Tom wiped his hands on a rag and sighed. "I've noticed it, too. She's been on edge ever since the whole thing with Mary. Do you think it's because of that? Or is there something else going on?" Tom looked thoughtful. "Hard to say. Jenny's always been a bit high-strung, but this is different. Have you tried talking to her?" "I have, but it always ends in a fight. She blames me for everything." "Maybe she's just struggling with all the changes. Give her some time, but don't let her walk all over you." "I hear you, Tom. Thanks." We continued working in silence, but my mind was racing. I loved Jenny, but I couldn't keep going like this. Something had to give, or we'd end up destroying each other. That evening, I decided to give it one more shot. I found Jenny in the living room, scrolling through her phone. "Can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She looked up, her eyes narrowing. "About what?" "About us. I don't want to fight. I just want to understand what's going on with you." She sighed and put her phone down. "Fine, what do you want to know?" "Why have you been so angry lately? I feel like I can't do anything right." Jenny looked away, her jaw clenching. "It's just Everything's been so stressful. The house, the bills, and yes, my mom. I know she's a nightmare, but she's still my mom. I get that, but taking it out on me ain't helping. We're supposed to be a team. I know, but sometimes it feels like I'm doing this all alone. Her words hit me hard. I never realized she felt that way. I'm here, Jenny. I'm trying my best. Maybe we need to find a way to make this work together. She nodded slowly. Maybe you're right. I'm sorry, Sam. It's just been hard. I know. Let's try to figure this out together. For the first time in weeks, I saw a glimpse of the woman I married. Maybe there was hope for us after all. In the weeks that followed, things didn't get much better between Jenny and me. She continued to snap at me for every little thing, and I felt like I was walking on broken glass all the time. It was like she was looking for reasons to pick a fight, and I was getting real tired of it. One night, after another pointless argument about something trivial, I decided I needed to clear my head. I grabbed my jacket and headed out for a walk. As I was walking down the quiet streets of our neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Jenny wasn't just stressed. She was angry, resentful even. And no matter what I did, it seemed like I couldn't fix it. I found myself wandering towards the local bar. I needed a drink to help me think. I walked in and took a seat at the bar. The bartender, Joe, nodded at me. "Hey, Sam. Rough night?" "Yeah, Joe. You could say that. What can I get you?" "A beer, please." Joe handed me the beer and I took a long sip, trying to figure out where things had gone so wrong. I was deep in thought when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see an old friend, Mike, smiling at me. "Sam, long time no see, buddy. Mind if I join you?" "Not at all, Mike. How've you been?" We caught up for a while, talking about old times and what we'd been up to. It was nice to have a distraction, but eventually the conversation turned to my troubles with Jenny. "Man, she's been impossible lately," I said, shaking my head. "I don't know what to do." Mike looked at me sympathetically. "I'm sorry to hear that, Sam. Marriage can be tough. But sometimes people act out when they're hiding something." "Hiding something? What do you mean?" "I don't want to jump to conclusions. But have you ever considered that maybe Jenny's behavior might be because of someone else?" The thought hit me like a ton of bricks. I hadn't even considered the possibility that Jenny might be seeing someone else. But now that Mike mentioned it, a lot of things started to make sense. The constant anger, the defensiveness, the way she'd been distant lately. "I don't know, Mike. I never thought she would do that to me." "People change, Sam. I'm not saying she is, but it might be worth keeping an eye out. Trust your gut." I thanked Mike for the advice and headed home, my mind racing with possibilities. When I got back, Jenny was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. I lay down next to her, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. The next few days, I started to pay more attention to Jenny's behavior. She was on her phone a lot, always smiling at messages she wouldn't share. She started staying out late, claiming she was with friends, but never giving me a straight answer about where she was going. My suspicions grew stronger, and I knew I had to find out the truth. One night, she said she was going out with friends again. I decided to follow her. I kept a safe distance as she drove across town, eventually stopping at a restaurant. I parked my truck and watched as she got out and walked inside. I waited for a few minutes before following her in, making sure to stay out of sight. There she was, sitting at a table with a guy I didn't recognize. They were laughing and talking like they didn't have a care in the world. My heart sank, and I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. It was true. She was cheating on me. I didn't confront her then. I needed time to process what I'd just seen. I left the restaurant and drove around aimlessly, trying to figure out what to do next. When I finally got home, Jenny was already there, acting like nothing happened. "Hey, Sam, how was your night?" she asked, her voice sugary sweet. "Fine," I replied, my voice cold. "Just fine." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just tired." I went to bed, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal. I couldn't believe she'd done this to me. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was seeing someone else behind my back. I knew I had to confront her, but I needed to do it on my terms when I was ready. The next morning, I woke up early, determined to get some answers. I waited until Jenny was in the shower before I grabbed her phone. I knew her passcode and quickly unlocked it. What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were messages between her and the guy from the restaurant, messages that made it clear they were more than just friends. When she came out of the shower, I was sitting on the bed, her phone in my hand. She froze when she saw the look on my face. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but full of pain. "Right now." Jenny stepped out of the shower, her face turning pale when she saw her phone in my hand. "What do you think you're doing, Sam?" she snapped, grabbing a towel and wrapping it around herself. "We need to talk," I said, my voice barely holding back the anger and hurt. "Right now?" She crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. "Fine, let's talk. What now?" I held up her phone, the screen still showing messages between her and the guy from the restaurant. "Care to explain these?" Her eyes widened for a moment, then she sneered. "So you've been snooping through my phone? That's low, even for you, Sam." "Don't try to turn this around on me, Jenny. You lied to me. You've been seeing someone else behind my back. How long has this been going on?" She huffed, rolling her eyes again. "It's none of your business, Sam. If you were half the man he is, maybe I wouldn't have had to find someone else." Her words cut deep, but I kept my composure. "You cheated on me, Jenny. That's a fact. But instead of owning up to it, you're making excuses and blaming me. Why?" "Because you're impossible, Sam," she shouted. "You never listen. You're always working, and you just don't get it. I needed someone who actually cares about me." I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger and sorrow. "I cared about you more than anything, Jenny. I did everything I could to make this work, but you just kept pushing me away." She shrugged, looking more annoyed than remorseful. "Well, maybe I just outgrew you. People change, Sam. Deal with it." I felt a cold finality in her words. "So that's it? You're just done with us?" She stared at me, her expression unyielding. "Yeah, I guess I am." I nodded slowly, standing up and handing her phone back to her. "Then there's nothing left to say. I'm done too." Jenny watched as I grabbed my jacket and walked out of the bedroom. "Where are you going?" she called after me, her tone more curious than concerned. "Out," I replied, not looking back, "to figure out what's next." I walked out the door feeling a strange mix of liberation and heartbreak. I got in my truck and drove, not really knowing where I was headed, just needing to clear my mind. As I drove, I thought about everything that had happened, about the woman I thought I knew, and the person she'd turned into. Eventually, I found myself back at Joe's bar. Mike was still there, sitting at the counter. He looked up as I walked in and raised an eyebrow. "Back so soon?" I nodded, taking a seat next to him. "Yeah, things didn't go too well at home." Joe brought me another beer, and I took a long drink. Mike waited for me to speak, sensing I needed to get something off my chest. "Turns out you were right," I said, finally breaking the silence. "Jenny's been seeing someone else." Mike shook his head. "I'm sorry to hear that, Sam. What are you going to do now?" I shrugged, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. "I don't know, man, but I know I can't stay in that house anymore." Mike nodded. "You can crash at my place for a while if you need to. No point in staying where you're not wanted." "Thanks, Mike. I might take you up on that." We sat there in silence for a while, just two old friends sharing a moment of understanding. It was comforting to know I had someone in my corner, even when everything else seemed to be falling apart. The next few days were a blur. I packed up my things and moved in with Mike. Jenny didn't seem to care much. She was too busy with her new life. It hurt, but I knew I had to move on. One evening, as Mike and I were sitting on his porch watching the sunset, he turned to me and said, "You know, Sam, sometimes things fall apart so better things can fall together. This might just be the start of something new for you." I nodded, appreciating his optimism. "Yeah, maybe you're right." It wasn't easy, but day by day I started to feel more like myself again. I reconnected with old friends, threw myself into work, and slowly began to rebuild my life. It wasn't the life I had planned, but it was a life that was mine. Jenny and I finalized our divorce a few months later. She didn't fight it, and neither did I. It was clear we were better off apart. I heard through the grapevine that her new relationship didn't last long, but by then I was too focused on my own path to care much. One day, while I was working on an old car in Mike's garage, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. I knew there'd be challenges ahead, but I also knew I had the strength to face them. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I was ready to swing back. And as the days turned into weeks and then months, I found a new kind of happiness, one that was built on resilience, friendship, and the understanding that sometimes the best things come from the hardest lessons learned. And that's my story. Not the one I thought I'd be telling, but the one that made me who I am today.